Though created way back in 1987 as an exercise in muscle-bound spite, WWE's Survivor Series endured for decades as a November tentpole, the least appreciated of the promotion's big four. Younger fans may not understand the allure of one-time Thanksgiving tradition, but for the older crowd, Survivor Series in its heyday was a gravy-soaked comfort food, a rare opportunity to see a handful of major stars in the same match. Elimination matches, to be exact. And for decades, that tradition persisted in some form or fashion, as WWE served up a cornucopia of flavor through one overstuffed bout after another. I'm Sam Driver from Cultaholic Wrestling, and these are the 10 best WWE Survivor Series elimination bouts. Join us! Number 10, the 1995 Wildcard match. Let it be said that while most of WWF's 1995 output was rancid, they absolutely delivered with Survivor Series. The entire evening feels like a contradiction of the bad year that preceded it, and it's thanks to some truly inspired outings. Take, for example, the Wildcard match, in which faces and heels were forced to coexist as partners in the name of in-ring supremacy. Ascending main eventer Shawn Michaels teamed with newcomer Ahmed Johnson, dastardly Davey Boy Smith, and noted Michaels' rival Sid to face IC champ Razor Ramon, Michaels' enemy Dean Douglas, and former tag champs Owen Hart and Yokozuna, allies of the Bulldog. As expected, Michaels and Ramon merrily cause their own hated partners to be eliminated, while Smith does all he can to not so subtly save Owen and Yoko. Amid those profound happenings, it's Ahmed who stands out the most as domineering powerhouse. Really, the whole match was a wonderful slice of something completely different, especially for new generation WWF. Number 9, the 2016 20-man tag. Mild spoiler, as this list goes on, we'll pay homage to a couple of other 20-man bouts, some of the finest in the event's long history. The 2016 match was the first time in 28 years that WWE ran a Survivor Series bout featuring 10 static tag teams. The only twist is that instead of being 5 face teams versus 5 heel combos, this one was steeped in red versus blue. There's a manic energy to a match that saw duos like the Usos, the Good Brothers, Enzo and Cass, and the Future Bar all shine brightly, as they did have to cram 9 eliminations in a 19-minute stretch, about half the time of their 1980s equivalents. That said, man, it was just fun to see WWE with such a fleshed-out tag team division again, even if some teams like Slater and Rhino and the Hype Bros weren't quite long-haul steady. In other words, it was great to see tag team wrestling feel special in WWE again, even if just for one night. Number 8, Raw vs SmackDown Men's Bout 2016. One downside to this match, it's 53 pissin' minutes long, which might just be a smidge too long for a bout that doesn't exactly have stakes. In fact, it ran so long that Goldberg and Brock Lesnar's planned 35-minute main event had to be cut down to a scant 90 seconds. That's a joke, of course. Both men have the cardio of applesauce. It was long enough for Shane McMahon to take a 25-minute power nap on the apron while soaked in 9 gallons of his own sweat. But while it was long, it was also pretty gosh darn great. At the onset of brand extension Mark II, you had the treasured Kevin Owens-Chris Jericho friendship, Randy Orton as an unlikely Wyatt underling, and Braun Strowman just learning how to be a remorseless killing machine. There was also Roman Reigns getting booed every time he blinked, whether mingling with his old Shield buddies or not. The high-impact moments make up for any lulls, as Raw vs SmackDown redo started out strongly enough, evidenced here. Number 7, Raw vs SmackDown 2005. This one's a popular one among the Ruthless Aggression crowd, and for good reason. In a time where brand warfare wasn't yet done to death, Raw vs SmackDown once felt like a big deal, instead of being an annual obligation. The 2005 Survivor Series in general was a solid card, ignoring Eric Bischoff vs Theodore Long, capped off by an elimination bout where everybody had their working boots on. The SmackDown contingent of Randy Orton, Batista, JBL, Rey Mysterio, and Bobby Lashley triumphed over Raw's Shawn Michaels, Kane, Big Show, Chris Masters, and Carlito in a 24-minute match that almost never slows down to catch its breath. Just as madcap as the in-ring action is the commentary, in which Raw and SmackDown's announcers bicker back and forth at a speed that clearly indicates they've come up with their own barbed verbiage. If latter-day Raw vs SmackDown bores you, here's proof that at one time there used to be an earth-shattering kaboom when worlds collided. Number 6, the 1988 20-man tag. First of all, you have to love any match where Los Conquistadors survive for over 40 minutes. Really speaks to the unpredictable nature a fray of this size can promise. While Uno and Dos almost going the distance is fun, the 1988 20-man earns its plaudits for a great in-match story, as well as a seemingly innocuous sequence equipped with an unbelievable backstory. Any match with the Hart Foundation, Rockers, Demolition, Brainbusters, and British Bulldogs is gonna rule given the talent on display. But what puts this extensive bout over the top was the late match sequence in which Mr. Fuji unexpectedly double-crossed Axe and Smash, ending up in the camp of Powers of Pain by match's end. It was a bit of a confusing double turn, but a necessary one given Demolition's soaring popularity. As for the other notable portion, Dynamite Kid and Jacques Rougeau's interactions were preceded by a real-life brawl between the two that saw Dynamite get his teeth knocked out. Just adds to the legend of this fantastic bout. Number 5, Team Cena vs. The Authority in 2014. Nothing like an elimination match with stakes to make a Survivor Series stick its landing. And a whole lot of stipulations lined the 2014 closer. From all of John Cena's teammates losing their jobs if they lost, to Triple H and Stephanie McMahon standing to lose their jobs if the babyfaces prevailed. The latter came to pass, though the Authority was only out of work for 5 or 6 weeks. The 5-on-5 Holy War was plenty dramatic before Big Show's 37th career heel turn, and only ratcheted up once Dolph Ziggler was tasked with slaying Luke Harper, Kane, and Seth Rollins by himself. Ziggler continually flirted with elimination while casting out the two behemoths, looking like a major star in the process. Then, once all the heel shenanigans unfold, it's the debuting Sting who saves the day. Granted, Sting's WWE run was a colossal waste of a legend, and Dolph was subsequently cut off at the knees because his heroic run was really drawn up for injured Roman Reigns, but hey, the match was, in fact, awesome. Number 4, the Underdogs vs. the Body Donners in 1995. What was said earlier about the 1995 Survivor Series being an oasis in a year of unpleasant desert, it rings especially true with this 4-on-4 opening bout featuring 8 gifted mid-carders. Seriously, this was like 1995 WWF's answer to the X Division, as they sent a bunch of tremendous wrestlers out there and ordered them to just kill it for 20 minutes. In a year where change was needed, this felt positively evolutionary. Marty Jannetty, Barry Horowitz, Hakushi, and Bob Holly tangled with Chris Skip Candido, Louis Radford Spicoli, Dr. Tom Pritchard, and a freshly heel-turned 1-2-3 Kid, wowing the crowd with fast sequences and innovative maneuvers. Hakushi especially looked like a big deal during his offensive flurries, earning astonished crowd responses that sadly fell on deaf ears of management. Kid ended up surviving the ordeal, pinning former partner Jannetty following interference from Sid. Before that tainted finish, this was a match that felt worthy of the frequently branded New Generation ad campaign. It was another harbinger of where American pro wrestling was truly headed. Number 3, WWF vs. The Alliance in 2001. Sure, the Invasion was a bigger flop than most of Lionsgate's recent filmography, and the Last Stand Squadron was only 40% actual invaders, but at least it ended on a fairly strong note. The final battle would cast all non-immune members of the losing side into the abyss, until being arbitrarily brought back to TV without rhyme or reason, that is. The Rock, Undertaker, Kane, Chris Jericho, and Big Show represented sports entertainment's final hope against Stone Cold, Kurt Angle, Rob Van Dam, Booker T, and a less sweaty Shane McMahon. Though true WCW representation was lacking outside of Booker, that's still a pretty impressive end-of-the-line field. The sides whittled away until it came down to Austin and Rock, turn-of-the-century pillars fighting to the promotional death. After Angle revealed himself to be a mole, Rock scored the all-important final fall on Austin, the first time he'd ever pinned Stone Cold, in fact. Again, the Invasion was trash, but its final chapter, anything but. Number 2, the 1987 20-man tag. Everybody has a fetish, and if 20-man elimination matches are yours, then this list clearly aims to tease your tendrils. The first Survivor Series may have been an excuse to muscle Starrcade 87 out of the pay-per-view market, but it wasn't like it was a bad show. In fact, the 3 other bouts were all pretty close to making the cut of this list. Then there's this 10-team elimination showcase, which ranks near the apex of Survivor Series showdowns. 1987 WWF boasted a loaded roster and one of the finest tag team scenes in promotional history. What makes the 1987 version so good is not only the quality of the action, but the underdog story it weaves. Mid-card duos the Young Stallions and Killer Bees overcame a 3-on-2, well, 6-on-4 disadvantage to win the match, kickstarted by Paul Romer's brilliant top rope sunset flip on Greg Valentine, who doesn't know Romer's the legal man. Just a thrilling match from start to finish, and it gets better as it goes along. And number 1, Team Austin versus Team Bischoff in 2003. 18 months earlier, Shawn Michaels was all but retired from the ring, his time seemingly come and gone. In his 2002 comeback, HBK proved that his god-level talent had not betrayed him, and that he was still capable of stealing the show on just about any given night. When co-GMs Stone Cold and Eric Bischoff decided Raw wasn't big enough for their dueling hands, it set the stage for Michaels to once again steal the show. Austin wagered his GM role that Michaels, Booker T, Rob Van Dam, and the Dudley Boys could beat Bischoff's squad of Chris Jericho, Christian, Randy Orton, Mark Henry, and Scott Steiner, with Austin gaining the right to physical governance should Bischoff's team lose. Near the 15-minute mark, Michaels hits a major gusher, just as it comes down to 3-on-1 against him. Valiantly, Michaels eliminates Christian and Jericho, and damn near pins young Orton during a frenzied adrenaline-spiking final sequence. Alas, Batista's interference costs Michaels the match, and Austin, briefly, his job. A heartbreaking ending to arguably the greatest elimination match in Survivor Series history.